Hello, and welcome to another PlexVision episode. A brand new iPhone has recently arrived, the iPhone 14. The tale of how an iPhone is manufactured from European chip production machinery to Taiwanese key components deserves a lot of attention, even though the focus is on what new features may or may not have been included. The effort required to get one of these devices into your hands is truly worldwide. Since the beginning, China has been the preferred location to produce the iPhone. But more recently, due to certain indications of instability in China, Apple has been looking more and more to India to take part of the manufacturing capacity. Let's look at what is happening. Let's start by asking why China was chosen as the location to produce the iPhone. So allow me to tell you a quick tale. Steve Jobs chose a glass screen for the first iPhone in 2017, as opposed to a plastic one. Just a few weeks before its debut, he made this choice. American businesses claimed it was impossible to make this last-minute change, but a Chinese firm claimed they could make it. They built a dormitory in advance so when the contract with Apple was signed, their employees could work 12-hour shifts. In order to make 10,000 iPhones every day, 8,000 workers were awakened from their sleep. They then went to work attaching the glass screen to the iPhone. In addition to being far more expensive, this work would take many months to complete in the United States while just requiring a few days in China to assemble all the necessary workers. Stories like this, excluding the obvious human rights concerns, show why China is known as the world's factory and where the majority of iPhones are produced. However, as previously indicated, recently things have started to shift toward India. With the release of the iPhone SE in 2017, Apple first began producing iPhones in India. Since then, Apple has been collaborating with suppliers to increase manufacturing in India, and things are moving more quickly. India produced 1.5% of the world's iPhones in 2020. Apple intends to increase this to 7% by 2022, from the country's current 5% supply of the iPhone 14. That's around 12 million iPhones. Apple even began producing the iPhone 13 in India early this year. Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo predicted last month that the production of the iPhone 14 would start in India 6 weeks after it did in China. This delay would typically last 6 to 9 months. Next year, production of the iPhone 15 is anticipated to start simultaneously in both nations. Additionally, the Indian government has provided financial incentives for the manufacture of technology. This program is known as the Made for India initiative. Foxconn, the main producer of iPhones, evaluated the procedure for importing parts from China and manufacturing the iPhone at a facility in the southern Indian city of Chennai. While this may be good news for India, there are still 3 major obstacles to overcome. For now, this is probably how the supply chain will operate. First, China has a vast supply of chain network that India does not have. It would take a lot of investment in order to get a parallel Indian system to a comparable state. Coordination between hundreds of suppliers is frequently required when building one iPhone, and that's without mentioning Apple's infamously tight timelines and quality control. Secondly, relocating to a new nation, there is a significant risk to Apple in terms of security and confidentiality. Apple takes extraordinary measures to prevent leaks and maintain the confidentiality of product information. It would be exceedingly challenging to impose the same strict rules in a second nation. Local Foxconn officials in India have considered completely enclosing off a portion of one of its production lines. According to Bloomberg, they paid close attention to how the device's security might be jeopardized. The current assessment is that it would be extremely difficult to replicate the stringent security measures used by Chinese facilities. Bloomberg also reports that Apple is extremely concerned about Indian customs authorities. Typically, they inspect the contents of the package once they are opened. It goes without stating that this is a huge potential vulnerability for product security and is done to ensure that materials match their declarations. Thirdly, during the past 5 years, Apple has certain difficulties due to the labor and factories in India. Conflicts and even revolts have occurred because of the low salary and low quality food. It appears that improving the facilities and reevaluating salaries will be the simplest ways to resolve this issue. What precisely is Apple doing and why? The essential word here is uncertainty. And due to the current economic and geopolitical situation, Apple recognizes the need to diversify its supply chain and increase redundancy while the CCP battles the US government. The US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan occurred at maybe the worst time. At a time when tensions were already high, it contributed to some destabilization in the Asia-Pacific area. Strict lockdowns, particularly those in China's manufacturing hubs, have seriously impacted business operations. China's manufacturing prowess has suffered as a result of these lockdowns and US sanctions. This, combined with raising labor prices in China and unstable real estate market, makes it understandable why Apple is beginning to seek abroad for manufacture. What do you guys think? Do you believe Apple's action will attract other foreign investment in India? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, that's all we have for today's video. Have you been watching PlexVision with me, Abdul? I'll see you soon for the next episode. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. See ya!